I have a feeling that this is going to be one of my most important videos that I have ever made. Today I want to talk about how we can collectively change the world with the law of assumption. And I'm specifically speaking to truthers, people who are awake, people who know how corrupt everything has become. Because while the law of assumption can be used to better your own individual life, when I say that you can create your own reality, you can also change the reality collectively. And if we all have the same goal in mind, this becomes amplified. In my previous video, I talked about how we are programmed to assume a certain reality. One thing that I want to make really clear is that from an extremely early age, we have all been programmed to assume that a certain group of people have complete control and authority over our life, and that there's nothing that we can do about it. It's just how it is. I'm here to tell you that that is only true at the moment because we have convinced ourselves that it is true. And to be quite frank, we are actually in a place where we are policing ourselves and we're feeding into the lie. I'm going to be giving some real life examples of why this is definitely true. Like I always do in my videos, I don't just talk about theory, I talk about real life concrete examples so that people can understand this on a deep level. And I'm just going to start off here. So in the UK we have a monarchy, we have the royal family. Why are they in power? How does someone get to a status level whereby collectively all of the people refer to you as a king or queen? Can you think of a logical explanation as to why we refer to certain people as royal? We look at them as if they are above us, and they somehow have been appointed with this status, and there is no real logical reason why this is the case other than that collectively everyone assumes that it is true. Now, I'm using them as an example. They are not the highest in the pecking order by any means. The people that are higher up than them, we do not even see. We have never even met these people. They're in the shadows, so to speak, metaphorically. But my point is that people in a position of power are only in a position of power because a large amount of people have assumed it. And in addition to this, the person in power, this fake power, assumes it themselves that they are above everyone else. And obviously this is a huge problem because whatever rules are made by this person or these people, because people put them on a pedestal, people collectively follow whatever rule is made, regardless of whether it is moral. And what we're seeing unfold now is it has become an extremely slippery slope, and it really doesn't need to be like this anymore. I feel this so strongly, and I am seeing other truthers and other people in general are realizing this. It is time to take back our power. So the first step is to really understand this truth, everything that I've just said, that these people are in power because it's an illusion that we have bought into. Now what we need to do is to change the narrative. We all complain about how people are often very easily influenced and swayed. You see it with trends. There are some trends that are absolutely ridiculous, some things that are brought into the mainstream that, quite frankly, look like a joke, such as these red, disgusting boots. Stay with me here. A few months ago, celebrities started wearing these boots. And have you seen the price tag as well? They are incredibly expensive and they look ridiculous. No sane person, I can very confidently say, no sane person will look at these boots and think, yeah, they look good. But strangely, more and more celebrities started wearing these boots out in public to try and make them look cool, and lo and behold, there are people out there that have started purchasing and wearing these boots because the people that they assume are better than them, the people that they idolize, are saying that these are cool. They're assuming that they're cool. This is the power of influence. I'll give you another example. 2020. At the very early stages of the con vid, people were not concerned. People were saying stuff like, I'm not scared of catching a cold. Oh, it's all hype, it'll die down. Within a matter of weeks, we saw nearly the entire world start wearing these ridiculous muzzles because everybody else started wearing a muzzle. It got to the point where it actually became a fashion accessory. People started taking selfies wearing a muzzle, which I still, to this day, do not understand. It became normal very quickly. And the way that it happened was that everybody assumed that it was normal, but not everybody. There was obviously a lot of us scattered around the world that saw it for what it was, and then somehow we became the odd ones out for walking into a shop and just wanting to breathe fresh air. That should be enough to tell you that the reality that we live in is fucking weird, and that it can be changed drastically, sometimes very quickly. But even if you're the odd one out and everybody else seems to be pushing a certain way and you're pushing against it, I want to give an example now of how powerful your energy can be and the power of your thought can be, and how it doesn't matter what everybody else is doing and what everybody else is thinking. If your dominant thoughts lean a certain way, your personal reality will be different. So, back in the 2020s, there was one or two occasions at the very beginning where I would walk into a shop and I would actually get harassed by a shopkeeper who was on a power trip telling me to do the sanitizer thing and to wear a muzzle. And it only took 2 times of this happening, and me actually, I will say now, it was the very early days. I gave in only twice. I put this thing on and I instantly felt so ashamed. I actually felt violated that I had accepted what this other person was telling me to do against my integrity. I walked around very briefly, it was in the charity shop, and I was holding the mask, like kind of pulling it to the side so I could like breathe. And then I had a surge of anger and I walked out. And I was so angry and so resentful towards this shopkeeper that I never went in the shop ever again. And it was that moment that I realised there is no way that I will accept people telling me to do this. I will not do it. You kind of sometimes have to get to the point where a fire is lit within you and you just say, enough is enough. And I very, very quickly got triggered because if you know anything about me, right, I've always hated uniform. I've got a real thing about uniform. I've got a real thing about authority as well. Hate both of them with a fiery passion. And I think it is a huge violation when people are being told what they can and can't wear, because that is a huge part of your self-expression and your unique individuality. And someone is trying to strip that from you. I take it as a very, very personal attack. So I decided this. I thought, no one is going to ask me to wear a muzzle. It's not going to happen. And I'm going to practice with my mind manipulating my reality whereby this does not happen. And I tell you now,
I am telling you right now,
what started to happen was so surreal. So what I started doing was obviously going into places, going into the shop and not wearing a muzzle. I could have allowed it to take over my mind and think, I really don't want people to ask me or affront me, so I'm just going to stop going into the shop altogether. I'm going to get other people to. And I thought, no, I can't allow that to happen because I am then a victim to the circumstance. And again, I'm being coerced into not being able to live my life out of fear of something happening. So what I started doing was aggressively, deliberately going into shops and mastering my energy field and how shopkeepers would respond to me, or rather, they didn't affront me at all. And I tried this where I would go in with another person, they'd try not wearing a muzzle, and instantly the shopkeeper would spot them and say, "Excuse me, sir, you're not wearing a muzzle." And I'd be stood right next to the person and they'd get scared and put one on. and the shopkeeper appeared to have the power in that situation, they'd then look at me, and sometimes they wouldn't even ask me. They wouldn't even acknowledge that I wasn't complying. They would simply leave me alone, because my energy, the vibe that I was giving off was, I'm not the one. Don't be asking me, because it's not going to happen. In fact, I assumed that they just would know not to affront me. There was something about my energy, and I got so good at this. It got so good. I just would never get affronted. It's almost like they didn't see me, but I didn't have that vibe as if to say, oh, I really don't want them to notice me. No, I had my head held strong. I had my auric field was very much out in the open, like, I'm here, I'm not wearing a muzzle, and you're not going to do anything about it, you're not going to tell me what to do. That was me utilising the law of assumption to change my reality, even though everybody else was complying, and they would have got affronted because they were scared. I didn't. Now, the same thing happened with my dad. He never wore a muzzle, like, ever. Ever. You couldn't get him to do that. He actually spoke to a shopkeeper. He'd been going in the shop for months, like multiple times a week. And he was talking to the shopkeeper, and they were talking about vid. And he just said, well, I've been completely fine, and I haven't worn a muzzle since day one. And it was only at that point that the shopkeeper actually looked at him and went, oh yeah? Oh, I didn't even notice. They didn't notice that they could see his face. Now that's some kind of programming there. That's a bit scary. That people didn't even notice that he wasn't wearing a muzzle. They didn't notice that was something that stood out. But here's something else that I did that I feel like I should mention, is that I came up with a catchphrase. Because in this world, people have become very robotic. They become very much like they're on autopilot. And what I've learned, something really peculiar, is that you can say certain phrases that sound authoritative, that sound like they are from something. It'll all make sense in a minute, hold on. And if you say it with full conviction, people will accept it even if they don't know what it means. So what I started doing was, if I was affronted, which became very, very rare, I already had it in my mind what I was going to respond with. So someone would say to me, excuse me, where's your muzzle? And I would simply respond, oh, I'm part of the exemption group. With full conviction, as if they should already know what the exemption group is. It's the exemption group. Don't you know? It was just a phrase. It sounded like a buzzword, and it just worked. Or I'd say, oh, I'm exempt, but that kind of sounded a bit, I don't know, I wasn't really vibing with that. Comment down below if you've ever used that phrase, but part of the exemption group was it worked like a dream. And I started telling other people about this, they started doing it, and boom, it worked. So you can take this lesson and you can start applying it to other things. For example, there's a place that I go to. They've got this weird scheme where they require you to put your thumbprint in. And obviously, I'm not going to do that. Every time I go into this place, they ask me for the thumbprint. And there's no need for me to have a thumbprint. I've got an account with them. This is like a beauty parlour. Tanning. I just thought, why? Why do they need people to have a thumbprint? It's really annoying because every time I go in, they assume that I have a thumbprint, and I've tried different phrases with them and I've cracked the code, right? The code is, you say, I've opted out. I've opted out. And somehow something clicks and they're like, oh, yeah, go through. So I know that I've dissed the Matrix and, simulation theory and everything, but, sometimes it really does seem that way, that we're just playing this very peculiar game, obviously created by God, but there's still elements that feel like it is a very bizarre game. But the things that I'm saying in this video, they are very simple. People imprison themselves with their own thoughts. And what I'm saying is you don't have to do that. I personally believe that we all have equal potential. I really do genuinely believe that. Whether or not there's NPCs, whether there's only 144,000 of us, I don't know. But if that was the case, at least the 144,000 of us have all got equal potential, right? You watching this video, you have potential, like huge potential. All you have to do is tap into it and acknowledge that that is the case. We may have different circumstances, we may have different challenges. That's all part of our individual journey, but I digress. So the thing that I was saying in relation to the ugly red boots and what was the other thing? Oh yeah, the muzzles. How muzzles became fashionable. If you live by example of how you want people to be, e.g., you want people to be free, to be brave, to believe in themselves, all that you have to do is show them what it looks like. Instead of forcing people to wake up and forcing them to believe in themselves, instead, let them look at how you live your life. Let them look at how you are. And if you do it right, it will encourage them and inspire them to be like that. I see a lot of posts on my Instagram from random accounts that are supposedly like truth seekers, and I see a lot of memes that are regurgitated all the time, that although it's true, it's not very empowering, and it actually makes me feel like people are going backwards. For example, I see a lot of posts about 2020 and the general vibe is, how can people not see? People don't realise that we're heading into this. They won't realise until it's too late. I see a lot of conspiracy posts that are disempowering, and what's funny is in my reality I'm seeing a change happen. Most people that I talk to now regret having the thing. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to acknowledge it because they are embarrassed and they're scared. We're not in that place now, back in 2021, where we were trying to prove to people that it was dangerous. They already know. They know because they've seen enough people now having adverse reactions, dying at a young age, with no rhyme or reason other than the thing. Nobody trusts or likes the gov. Nobody. And what we need to do is start embracing that and assuming it. Assume. Mit. Words are weird. It's like when a celebrity suddenly becomes famous, like, you know, one of these puppet singers just becomes famous out of the blue, and the kids in school start saying, "Oh my God, you don't know who she is. You're a loser. Who are you?" That's the attitude that I have now towards the truth about the corruption, is I assume that everybody knows. I assume it now. And if you're a normie and you're still in that brainwashed state, you're out of the conversation, not in a mean way, but just catch up, you know? It's like when I posted my electric cars video. I know in that video I was kind of doing a video presentation. I was in presenter mode. I was really proud of that video actually. I put a lot of research into it. I wanted to just slaughter the EV market, to be honest, by putting all of this together. But in my head I was thinking, nobody wants one of these things. Nobody likes EVs. Anyone who does like an EV, I don't get it. Factually, it's a really, really, really bad idea. And anyone who buys one, unfortunately, they're gonna have to learn the hard way that it's a terrible idea. And if you haven't seen that video, feel free to watch it if you don't know why. But, you know, I got a lot of hate on that video on TikTok because I posted the trailer. I got a plethora of evangelicists, or whatever they're called. They were like acting like an absolute cult, saying, "How is this research?" I'm like, well, it just went over my head completely because I was just like, I don't have any doubts. I know what the truth is. And that's the place where people should be at when it comes to your self-belief. In general, a really good tip that I've been practicing recently, and I know it's going to sound so cliche, but being in the present moment, being very consciously aware of your surroundings right now. A lot of us get locked into thinking about the past, and what that can do is it creates a loop pattern. You don't see change in your reality because you keep thinking about the past, and it keeps bringing up old thought loops. In addition to this, thinking about the future too much, that hasn't happened yet. That's up for grabs. In fact, your future is hugely determined by what you're doing right now, how you're thinking. A lot of people say that anxiety is thinking about the future. Depression is thinking about the past. A lot of people have both of those at the moment. Also, if you aren't present, the less present that you are, the more you will miss things, as in you'll miss signs. You won't be able to hear your intuition too well, and you definitely won't be consciously creating if you're not present. Let me know if you want me to elaborate on anything that I was talking about in this video, because I'm kind of practicing this new thing right now where I'm just talking completely free, and it feels so much better. I haven't had any notes for today's filming batch. I'm just genuinely speaking from the heart, so sorry if it's not as organised as it usually is. So anyway, thank you to everyone who donates to this channel. It really does help a great deal. Thank you so much for liking, commenting, sharing and subscribing so that more people can see these videos. Love you, bye.